Today, we're going to decode a really profound psychological framework surrounding karmic reunions and unresolved connections. If you've ever felt just, deeply tied to someone who is no longer in your everyday life, the material we're unpacking today is going to be incredibly illuminating. I'll be acting as your guide through this deeply emotional source material, breaking down the exact anatomy of what actually happens when silence finally breaks. So let's jump right in with a massive question. Because according to the framework, if you've been feeling unusually emotional lately, or if old memories are suddenly surfacing out of nowhere, it is absolutely not a coincidence. You might genuinely think you're just overthinking things, right? But the source material suggests a very different reality is playing out behind the scenes. Well, that reality essentially boils down to one incredibly powerful thought. Someone has been carrying your name in silence. The underlying energy between the two of you is actively preparing for an inevitable meeting. And why is that? Because someone from your past has reached an absolute breaking point. They literally can no longer carry a heavy, hidden truth all by themselves.
Section 1. An inevitable connection. Defying time and distance.
Okay, so our source defines this invisible thread as a karmic connection. It's basically this profound bond that just completely ignores physical distance, it bypasses human ego, and it entirely defies silence. It keeps two people energetically connected even when there is absolutely zero communication happening on the surface. This connection persists and practically demands attention, no matter how hard someone tries to suppress it, distract themselves, or just pretend that they're totally fine. And honestly, you might actually be feeling the signs of this right now. The text highlights that these aren't mere coincidences, they are distinct energetic signals. We're talking about dreaming of them frequently, hearing their name unexpectedly in random conversations, or just getting hit with sudden, unexplained waves of emotion. If you find yourself thinking about them entirely out of nowhere, the framework identifies this as the direct result of that karmic energy pushing right through the silence.
Moving on to Section 2, Inside Their Silent Mind, the contrast of reality.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. There is this massive, stark contrast between their outward appearance and their inward reality. To the rest of the world, they project total confidence. They look perfectly normal and like they've seamlessly moved on with their life. But the inward reality? It's a completely different story. They are torn. They're constantly replaying memories of your voice, your expressions, your old conversations, and they are genuinely terrified by these feelings that simply refuse to fade away.
The source reveals that late at night, when all those daily distractions just fade away, they're sitting there haunted by some pretty agonizing questions. Things like, why do I still feel this? Why can't I forget them? Why does no one else feel the same? It's right in these quiet moments that a really painful realization sets in for them. They didn't lose you to mere circumstances. They lost you because they didn't handle the connection properly.
Section 3. The Catalyst for Confession, Breaking the Silence.
So you've got to ask, if they feel all of this inner turmoil, why the prolonged silence? Well, the true roots of it weren't a lack of caring. They were rooted in profound fear, a really deep fear of rejection. They were actually intimidated by your personal growth and strength. Plus, they carried this painful assumption that you must have already moved on without them. But above all else, they were terrified to face their own massive mistakes. Silence simply felt a lot safer than honesty. It acted as this ego-protecting shield. But eventually, that silence turns into absolute torture.
And that torture leads directly to a catalyst, a single moment of clarity that completely shattered their resolve. The framework suggests something recently happened, maybe a small, seemingly insignificant moment, or perhaps something a bit more dramatic. Maybe it was seeing you happy from afar or suddenly feeling intensely isolated in a crowded room. Whatever it was, it broke them. In that moment, they realized they would never forgive themselves if they didn't finally speak up. This decision to reach out wasn't impulsive at all. It was made from the deepest part of their soul.
Section 4. Revealing the shocking truth. The unspoken words.
This brings us to the impending meeting itself. And let's be clear, the source emphasizes this is not just a casual check-in. They have rehearsed this incredibly ego-crushing confession 1,000 times in their head. I was wrong. I handled this badly. I didn't know how to love properly. They are coming to admit that they cared far deeper and suffered far more than they ever showed you. Admitting this definitely hurts their pride more than using you ever did, but living with the regret has just become so much worse. It's amazing to look at the massive shift in their perspective here. Before the distance, they kind of took the whole connection for granted, letting pride and ego take the steering wheel. But after the distance,
It brought them undeniable clarity. They now realized that your presence was pure peace, your loyalty was completely real, and the bond you two shared was just incredibly rare. They actually compare everyone to you now, realizing that what you shared is something people search their entire lives to find.
So, the absolute bottom line, the ultimate shocking revelation here is this. They never stopped loving you. They tried to replace you, they tried to distract themselves, but love like this doesn't just disappear. It waits. And right now, it is demanding to be fully acknowledged.
All right, Section 5, How to Handle the Meeting, Your Journey and Preparation.
Now, let's talk about you. The source lays out a very clear, actionable playbook for when this meeting actually occurs. Rule number 1, do not interrupt. Let them speak, because truth only reveals itself fully when it's allowed to just flow. Rule 2, observe their actions over time, not just their words today. Remember, honesty without changed behavior means absolutely nothing. And Rule 3, respond entirely from clarity, not from raw emotion. You want to go into this fully aware, anchored firmly in your own healing and your own growth.
And finally, Section 6, Finding Peace and Closure, the final outcome. Because once they finally speak their truth, we're really looking at two possible outcomes. A new chapter, which is a potential renewal of the relationship, but this time built on a foundation of brutal honesty rather than ego. Or true closure, a final, definitive peace where absolutely nothing is left unfinished or unsaid. Whether this karmic event results in a renewal or closure, the absolute most important takeaway is that the heavy, unspoken tension between you two will finally be resolved.
I really want to highlight a truly beautiful perspective from the text here. You are not being tested. You are being honored. You survived the agonizing silence. You grew stronger from the pain. This impending revelation, this confession, is simply the universe honoring the deep, genuine love that you originally gave. You didn't imagine the connection, and you didn't love wrongly.
We're going to leave you with a final, thought-provoking question to really reflect on your own readiness. What did this make you feel? Hope, sadness, or clarity? Take a moment to really think about that, because sometimes answers arrive not necessarily to bring someone back into your life, but to bring you back to yourself. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope it brought you the clarity you were looking for.